There's a building on a busy street, sandwiched between a pharmacy and a shuttered electronics store. It's the kind of place you'd walk past 1,000 times and never really see. No signs, no logos, just a clean, dark glass front that reflects the world passing by. Most people probably figure it's an office, maybe under renovation, or perhaps it's already gone out of business. The funny thing is, nobody can remember when it even appeared. It just is. The very first official record we have of this place comes from a city utility report from March 14th, 2019. It's a dry, boring document, listing electricity usage for every business on the street. But there it is, a single address with consistent power consumption. It's not a lot of power, but it's steady. And strangely, it's mostly used at night. Back then, nobody thought twice about it. Nighttime power could mean anything. Servers, security lights, automated systems. The report was filed away, and that was that. 6 months go by, and another city department stumbles upon the building, completely by accident. They were updating sanitation routes, and this address popped up, marked for a weekly trash collection. Again, no business name, no owner listed, but the records showed pickups had been happening for several months. Someone, or something, inside, was creating waste. Still, it wasn't enough to raise any alarms. It was just another data point in a massive system. The building itself remained a complete enigma. It didn't advertise. No employees were ever seen coming or going. The glass doors were always locked during business hours, and they never seemed to open after dark. But sometimes, deep in the night, lights would flicker on inside, always after midnight, and they would always be off again before the first light of dawn. Then, in November of that same year, a delivery driver named Michael Reyes brought up the address. He was in a routine meeting about making his routes more efficient. Michael was 34, a veteran driver who knew the area like the back of his hand. He said the building was a ghost in his system. His scanner would sometimes show it as a valid delivery destination, but there were never any actual packages to take there, just the address, sitting there in the database, active and selectable. He just wrote it off as a glitch. Around the same time, a far more subtle pattern began to emerge, captured by the city's traffic cameras. Pedestrians, as they walked past the building, would slow down. It was almost imperceptible, just a slight hesitation, a fraction of a second, before they moved on. It wasn't like they were stopping to look. It was more like an unconscious flinch. Analysts, who later reviewed the footage, called it micro-avoidance behavior. That's the kind of subtle detour your body makes when you walk past a dark alley or a noisy construction site. But here, there was no obvious reason for it. The building was pristine. The sidewalk was clear. The windows were regularly washed. Speaking of maintenance, city records showed that permits were filed electronically for the building every single year. Standard forms, standard fees, all paid on time. The payer was listed as some generic holding company with no physical address, and Eventat, in the grand, anonymous world of corporate paperwork, was normal enough to be completely overlooked. So, by the beginning of 2020, this strange building was fully woven into the fabric of the city's infrastructure. It had utilities, waste collection, maintenance schedules, and a spot on emergency response maps. It existed in every official capacity you could think of. And yet, no business registry had any record of an operation at that address. No one had ever seen a single person enter or leave. It was a functioning, operational void, a ghost in the machine of the city, hiding in plain sight. The mystery only deepened from there. A local blogger, fascinated by urban oddities, decided to make the building her pet project. She started a small online forum dedicated to gathering information about it. At first, it was just her, posting photos and her own observations. The pictures showed nothing unusual, just the same dark glass, reflecting the same passing clouds and buses. But then, people started sharing their own stories. Someone who worked in the pharmacy next door mentioned that they sometimes heard a low, humming sound coming through the shared wall, but only late at night. It wasn't loud, just a persistent, low-frequency thrum that would stop as abruptly as it started. Another person, a night shift taxi driver, swore he once saw a flicker of movement inside, a silhouette passing by a briefly lit window at 3 a.m. He couldn't be sure what he saw, and he'd never seen it again. The forum grew. People began sharing their micro-avoidance experiences. One user wrote, "It's like my brain tells my feet to speed up just for that one section of sidewalk. I don't even think about it." Another added, "I have to walk past it for work, and I always get this weird, cold feeling, like the air is a few degrees colder right in front of it." These were subjective feelings, impossible to prove, but the sheer number of people reporting the same sensation was chilling. The blogger decided to take things a step further. She set up a 24/7 live stream, a camera pointed directly at the building's facade from an apartment window across the street. For weeks, the stream was mind-numbingly boring. Nothing happened. The doors remained shut. The glass remained dark. Viewers watched traffic, commented on the weather, and slowly lost interest. And then, one night, it happened. At exactly 2:17 a.m., a single pixel in the reflection on the glass door glitched. It wasn't a camera error. For one frame, a tiny square of the reflection of a passing streetlight distorted, stretching unnaturally before snapping back into place. It was so fast that most people missed it, but one eagle-eyed viewer clipped it, slowed it down, and posted it to the forum. This tiny glitch opened the floodgates. The community went into a frenzy, analyzing every frame of the live stream. They found more distortions. A reflection of a bird flying past would seem to momentarily have two heads. The red of a stoplight would bleed into the surrounding reflection for a split second. These were not camera artifacts. They were localized, inconsistent, and seemed to affect only the reflections on the building's surface. It was as if the glass itself was a corrupted screen, struggling to render reality correctly. The city, now aware of the growing online buzz, did its own quiet investigation. They sent a building inspector. His official report was brief and anticlimactic. Exterior structure is sound, no visible code violations, unable to gain access to the interior. But unofficially, the inspector told a colleague that when he placed his hand on the glass door, it felt wrong. Not hot or cold, but statically charged and vibrating, like a tuning fork. He didn't put that in his report. How could he? The holding company that paid the bills was traced through a labyrinth of shell corporations to an offshore account that had been dormant for years, except for the automated annual payments for the building's upkeep. It was a digital dead end. Today, the building still stands there. The live stream is still running, with a dedicated community of watchers hunting for glitches in the reflection. The city continues to collect its trash and bill it for electricity. Pedestrians still hurry past it, driven by an instinct they can't explain. The building doesn't have a name, a purpose, or a story that makes sense. It just is an empty space that is somehow full, a silent structure that hums in the dark, a perfect reflection of our world, with just a few tiny errors. And the most unsettling question isn't what's inside the building. It's whether the building is just a reflection of something else, something much, much bigger. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy mysteries like this, make sure to subscribe for more. In the heart of a bustling city, there's a building that shouldn't exist. It's not haunted. It's not abandoned. It's something much stranger. It's a place that hides in plain sight, a structure that the world seems to have collectively agreed to ignore. This is the story of the building no one can remember. Our story begins not with a detective or an investigator, but with a security guard named Daniel Cho. Daniel is 41. A quiet man who worked the night shift in a parking garage directly across the street. From his little booth, he had a perfect, unobstructed view of the building's sleek, all-glass facade, and every night he would watch the city reflect in its surface. But one night, he noticed something was off. The reflections in the glass weren't quite right. They didn't always match what was happening on the street below. He saw cars that seemed to lag, their reflections appearing just a fraction of a second after they had actually passed. Pedestrians would sometimes appear to duplicate for a fleeting moment, their reflections creating a strange echo before snapping back into place. At first, Daniel just chalked it up to fatigue. Long nights, tired eyes, tricks of the light. It made sense. He was working the graveyard shift. After all, he tried to ignore it, telling himself it was just his mind playing games. But then came the power outage. It was a major one, plunging the entire city block into complete darkness. Every storefront, every street lamp, every apartment window went black, except for one. The glass building. Through the darkness, Daniel could see its interior lights were still on, burning with a steady, unwavering glow. It was completely unaffected. The outage lasted for 11 minutes. When the power finally returned, the city flickered back to life, but the glass building remained unchanged, as if nothing had ever happened. There was no official report about the incident, no explanation for why this one building had retained power. It was an anomaly that was simply never addressed. The next morning, Daniel casually mentioned it to his coworker, the guard who was taking over for the day shift. He described the power outage and the strange, lit-up building, but his coworker just gave him a blank look. He didn't remember which building Daniel was even talking about. It was the first sign that this wasn't just about tired eyes. A few years passed. In a completely unrelated event, the city's emergency services were conducting a routine audit of their databases. As they sifted through records and property files, one location was flagged with a very unusual designation: low visibility structure. It was a rare classification, almost unheard of. It was applied to locations that appeared across multiple official system stacks records, utility grids, city planning documents, but generated absolutely zero direct human interaction. No service calls, no mail delivery, no complaints, no visitors. The building existed on paper, but in the real world, it was a ghost. The classification, however, was informational only. It didn't require any action or follow-up. It was just a note in a file, another forgotten piece of the puzzle. Then, the world changed. The pandemic hit, and the once crowded city streets fell silent. Foot traffic dwindled to almost nothing. With fewer people, fewer cars, and fewer distractions, the city's architecture became more prominent, and for the first time, the glass building started to stand out from its surroundings. It was no longer just part of the urban background noise. Its silent, reflective presence became more noticeable in the quieted city. Still, even as it became more visible, no one ever approached it. No one went in, and no one came out. The doors remained perpetually closed. When local shop owners and residents in the area were asked about it, their descriptions were always vague, always uncertain. "Oh, you mean the glass one?" they'd say, or that quiet building on the corner. Some called it the place that's always closed. But when asked how long it had been there, no one could give a clear answer. Had it been there for 5 years? 10? 20? Their memories were a blur. It was as if the building had just appeared. The mystery deepened in 2022. A major online mapping service rolled out its annual update for street-level imagery. These updates happen all the time, with camera-equipped cars constantly remapping our world. But for this one specific update cycle, something bizarre happened to the building's image. It was blurred out. Not the street in front of it, not the reflections of the cars and people in its glass, just the facade of the building itself. A perfect, deliberate-looking blur, obscuring the structure from view. It was as if someone, or something, had specifically requested its digital removal. Then, just as strangely, in the very next update, the image was restored. The building was clear again, its glassy surface reflecting the world as if nothing had happened. No explanation was ever given for the temporary redaction. So what is this place? The question hangs in the air, unanswered. Today, the building still stands, a silent monument. To the unknown, it continues to function perfectly, at least on paper. City records show it consumes electricity, its usage patterns steady and consistent. Its waste is collected on schedule by municipal services. Its property permits are renewed on time, every time, without fail. It pays its taxes. It follows all the rules. It does everything a building is supposed to do. But it has no identity. No company name is listed on any directory. No corporate entity claims it as its headquarters. No employees are ever seen entering or leaving. Its purpose is a complete blank. It functions perfectly as a structure, as a piece of property, just not as a place for people. It is a building without a soul. And perhaps the most unsettling part of this entire story is what happens when you ask the people who walk past it every single day. The commuters rushing to work, the tourists with their cameras, the locals out for a stroll. When you stop them and point to the shimmering glass facade and ask them about it, they almost always say the same thing. They pause, a flicker of confusion in their eyes. They look at the building, really look at it, some for the very first time, And then they'll say, that's strange. I walk this way every day, and I don't remember ever noticing it at all. It's a chilling thought that something so large, so present, can be so completely invisible. It makes you wonder what else we might be walking past every day, hidden in plain sight, just waiting for someone to finally notice. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the unknown, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more mysteries. Let me know in the comments if you've ever encountered a place that just felt off. See you in the next video.